Good morning, everybody. So today what we are going to do is we are going to learn a little bit more about populations and how traits are distributed among populations and what that looks like. So last class we really looked at, let me pull it up here, our entry 19, we really looked at polygenes. So looking at the distribution of traits controlled by multiple genes, and it really led to a distribution. This included things like height and eye color and skin color, as well as diseases like coronary artery disease, diabetes, things like that. So your homework was really to finish out the 19B page and share that on Schoology. And in terms of class on Thursday, the main additional piece there was the reflection questions based on the skin color video that we had watched and the science behind that. So today we're going to learn a little bit more about analyzing populations and hopefully getting to this idea called biotic potential, which we will be learning about in the rest of the week. So I'm going to go ahead and dive in. I'm going to click into this presentation here, and we will be starting entry 20. It's going to be a little unorthodox in how we kind of fill out our pages, but we're going to start with an essential question. What predictions can we make when we study a population? So go ahead and pause and take a moment and write that down for our essential question for entry number 20. What predictions can we make when we study a population? And that's really important, not only for, humans, right? But also other organisms that we're going to investigate. We need to be able to analyze the past and current state of a population and kind of use that information to make predictions on the future. For example, how fast will a population grow? Will it increase? Will it decrease? Is it shifting over time? All of those types of things. If we kind of take our collective evidence and kind of look at it, past, present, we can make predictions about the future. But again, we need to kind of recap a little bit. So some of these slides we've seen before. I just want to make sure that you remember. Last week we talked about, again, the difference between an individual and a population. So an individual is just one living thing, whereas a population is really all the same thing. So for example, humans in the same place at the same time. And so it's important to realize that we can't make big predictions for a population by just looking at specific individuals. We need to actually look at the group as a whole. So that's just kind of an important note to remember. We can't make big predictions by just looking at individuals. So in order to address the growth, and I should also say change, of a population, we need to analyze the existing one. So I want you to think about what things can we measure about a population that we can't measure with an individual. What kinds of things could we track over time? And in this case, I would have the group share their answers in chat, and then we can talk about it. But hopefully the group gets to the idea of we cannot really analyze variety or variation very well if we just look at an individual. When we have traits that are widely distributed or there's a lot of different options, kind of remembering that a variation is a version of a trait, we really need to look at a larger group. And that brings out the idea of this vocabulary word, frequency. You don't necessarily have to write that down. I just want you to know that it kind of shows up in some math that's done. But frequency is how often the trait shows up. in a population. So, for example, in this tulip population, the red tulip shows up about 20% of the time, whereas the yellow tulip is about 25% of the time. And the white one is 10%, and so on. So you can kind of see in the distribution the frequency or how much. And in your homework from last time for the human heights that you did, we had frequency on the y-axis. How many people were in those different height ranges? And it kind of creates that bell curve that we talked about. So today, we are going to kind of do that kind of analysis, except we're going to do it with real cherry tomatoes, for example, as kind of an analysis of a current population. And in a perfect world, we would be in the classroom and all of you would have cherry tomatoes and we would be slicing them open and dissecting them and pulling out all of the seeds. However, you guys are at home right now. So I've kind of generated a population of data for you. But we're going to kind of analyze the variation in frequency. So how many differences there are and the number of individuals, in this case tomatoes, that fall into each one of those categories. In terms of the number of seeds that they have found in a population. And then we can even see how that might shift over time. So for example, what we're going to be working with today, I'm just going to kind of introduce you to the idea. This is our data set. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 120 total cherry tomato seeds worth, or let me try that again. There were 120 cherry tomatoes that were dissected and their seeds counted, and that number is represented here. So for example, in the upper left box, that particular cherry tomato had 66 seeds in it, whereas the one underneath it had 38 seeds in it. And you can see the spread of numbers is quite large. Some had a lot, some had a little. And all of these are interspersed among a group of cherry tomatoes. So what we're going to do today is kind of analyze it. It's a bit of a graphing lesson. So today's goal is not only to teach you about distribution, but also to help you get familiar with a lot of the Google Sheets graphing tools. So here's kind of what we're going to be doing today in a one slide put together. I have the activity here linked out and I'll show you what that looks like. I'm going to have you guys make a copy of it for yourselves so that way you don't mess with the original sheet. And what we're going to do is actually capture all of this data on our B page. So it kind of goes along with our entry 19 that we were working on. But we're going to have some notes on Thursday reserved for our A page. So I just want you to, we're going to actually work on our B page today. It's kind of counterintuitive, but we're working on the B page. So make sure that you do this on the B page. But we're going to analyze this data and then we can actually use it on Thursday on our A page as well. So what we're going to do is I will introduce all of the instructions, but this just shows you how we're going to lay out our page. We are going to kind of compile our data table. I am not going to make you redo the huge giant 121, but just like our, let's see, combined total, that makes it data table. So that way we're just doing the little guy. Then I'm going to have you do some analysis with it and I'll show you how to do that. Then when we are going to make a graph, so you're going to use Google Sheets to help you make a graph and I will show you how to do that. And then there are some analysis questions that I have put here. Let me see. Combined class or combined total. There we go. That's better. I should also, while I'm talking out loud here, sorry guys. There, now it matches the other page. Perfect. Here are those analysis questions. And this will kind of lead us into changing over time and also talking about things that can affect populations. And for the last one, I'm going to change this just a little. I want you to see if you can answer that one on the bottom. Okay, and then next time we'll go over them together as a class. There we go. So that's kind of today's goal, is that we are going to work through this B page, and we're going to use this link to do it. I'll share it in the chat with the class, but I'm going to open it up now so that I can show you. You will be prompted to make a copy, and some of this might be kind of hidden from you so you can't see. I'm trying to expand out the window, but it's not really working. In the first tab here at the bottom, I don't know why it won't let me expand it. In the first tab here at the bottom, you can see it says how-to videos. I've made some quick short how-to videos on how to color code the data, how to make a bar graph from the data, and also how to get Google Sheets to do some math for you, so that way we can look at a bunch of different things. On the second tab down here at the bottom, I have the actual data. So it's the same data set that was in the slideshow. You can copy it and so on and so forth. What I'm going to have you do is kind of total it up. And my video here on how to color code the data is going to be super helpful. But what I have done is I kind of walk you through the idea of setting up a table and color coding it by groups. So I have organized them in kind of groups of 10, and I'm going to want you to kind of do the same. And then I want you to total it up. So the video will walk you through kind of how to go about totaling all of these up in a nice, easy way. Otherwise, you can walk through and put tally marks. It's really however you want, but I'm trying to have you use Google Sheets as best as possible. So at the end, it might look something like this, where you've color-coded and totaled up everything. Once you have a nice color-coded table of totals, I show you and walk you through how to go about making a bar graph that shows this information, as well as doing some of the math along the side. So there's all of those elements that are here. Again, the how-to videos on the very first tab are going to show you how to go about doing it. And once you're finished, you are going to put that information on your B page. So that combined data, those totals, that's what you're going to put at the top. Your analysis of maximum, minimum, average, and mode are going to be underneath. Then you're going to put a picture of your graph, and then there's the analysis questions. So today is designed, I'm going to have everyone break out into breakout rooms and groups to kind of work on this together, but just organizing it, totaling it, graphing it, and answering some questions. And so again, this is data distribution, but also a lesson in Google Sheets and how to go about doing that. And that's the goal for today, is to just get through this B page, answer the analysis questions at the bottom, and then we're going to end up stopping there today. So the homework is really just you going through and finishing up the tomato analysis, and then we will return on Thursday to talk about kind of what that means, some things that would limit it, and then we're going to learn about the actual vocab word, biotic potential. All right, thanks everybody.